Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about the second installment in the X trilogy. For those who saw my previous video, I basically am reviewing the films that are leading up to Maxine from director Ty West. So it's basically his X trilogy, quote unquote. And this is the second film in the series I'm going to review for you today. So this is the journey to Maxine overall. But this film, Pearl, is going to be a prequel to X. So if you saw X already, this story happens before that movie does. And we follow the character of Pearl. We see her as an old woman in X, so be sure you've seen X before watching this movie. Otherwise, this film's not going to make a lot of sense. But basically, we follow Pearl at a young age. She's aspiring to be a dancer. She wants to be a dancer both the stage and the screen. She meets a projectionist in the town that she lives in and is really interested in pursuing, dancing in films. And she sees, all these actresses basically pursuing dancing in film, and they seem really happy and they seem to have their life together, and that's something that she really wants to do for the general public is entertain them in the form of as a dancer. But she lives on this farm with her immigrant family, and they're very strict with the rules. They don't let Pearl go out very often. They basically just send her into town for a couple things, and she has to come right back. So obviously, this is problematic when she's going to the movie theater and trying to pursue this secret relationship with this projectionist, even though she's already married to this World War One veteran that's off in the war, and so who knows when he's ever going to come back. So she is trying to kind of pursue this secret affair, underneath the surface with this projectionist, and all this stuff happens over the course of Pearl. She basically has a family that does not want her to pursue this dancing career. There's this audition that's coming up that she really wants to do, and she thinks that she could land the part in this dance audition at a church. And there's all this stuff that happens that prevents Pearl from becoming this dancer. She descends into madness. She has this relative that also wants to be a dancer and wants to entertain people, but she kind of has a little bit more going her way than Pearl does, and so Pearl gets very jealous of that as well. So over the course of Pearl, we follow her descent into madness, and we see what exactly happened to her that made her become that crazy old woman that we saw over the course of the film X. But overall, guys, I really like this film a lot. I think I would even go so far as to say I think I like this film better than X. I think it's a better made film. I like the color palette a little bit more. I like how this film's trying to acknowledge films of the golden age rather than X trying to acknowledge, films of the 70s and, kind of these grindhouse pornographic films and stuff. This time around, it's more so about the golden era of film, and it's I also like character study, so I like kind of seeing journeys into how characters become the way that they are. So that's always been kind of interesting to me. But Pearl is just a fantastic film, so I do want to go over some positives and negatives of why I really like this film. There's a couple things along the way I thought could have been better and would have satisfied me more as a viewer, but overall, how this was a great film experience for me overall. So first and foremost, you guys, the saturated color palette is absolutely fantastic in this film. They really do kind of make it feel like it's this film that you would have saw during the era of Wizard of Oz or Casablanca or things that came out, right when color was working its way into film. I just love how saturated everything felt and how, the blues and the reds and the yellows, even on shots where you see Pearl, riding her bike into town, how colorful the buildings look, how colorful the outfits look on the citizens that live there. The way the film looks is absolutely fantastic. I love the saturated look that they went with, and I do feel like it does represent that golden era of film that once existed, several decades ago. I also think this is a great character study about show business, how everybody wants to be in show business, but there's also a bad side to it. There's also the side of show business where you might not always land your audition, you might not always land that dream project, you might not always land that role in that movie that you wanted. And so the film depicts, both the good and the bad of show business, and that's what I like about this movie is that it does show the good side of, when you do land something and when you do find success and you do find an audience, there is a very huge upside to it. But if you don't find an audience, if you don't find the people that want to hire you for stuff, even if you're the best dancer in your town, just kind of the negative impacts that can leave a person when they don't land the part of their dreams and they don't land, this career that they hope to launch. So I like how this film is a character this film overall is a character study on the goods and the bads of show business. I thought that was very effective in this film. Mia Goth also once again delivers a great performance. I liked her performance in X quite a bit, but I really, really liked her performance in this. I liked how diverse this role was. I like how she has to bring the crazy while also being very cute at the beginning, while also being a convincing love interest for this projectionist, and also being this loyal daughter of this farm family, willing to take care of her father that's handicapped and has to, follow her mother's rules because she's very strict around this farm. So I liked how diverse this role was. I liked how it wasn't just one thing or the other. It really was this role where Mia Goth as an actress has to pursue all these things all at once, while also continuing something that we learned about this character from X, and kind of how we want to see that journey as to how she got to be that really kind of crazy person that's still interested in dancing and still wants attention. But how did she get to that point? How come she has this husband that just kind of accepts her for this crazy person that she is, and how exactly did we get to that journey, and how did she end up to that place? So I thought the film effectively got Mia Goth to do all this stuff at once in a very diverse performance. Very, very good acting role for sure. I also felt very engaged the whole runtime. Not to say that X didn't do that for me, but I did feel engaged the whole time. I felt like I was in the moment, really following these characters around, really feel invested in their journey. If they were about to reach success, I wanted them to reach success. If they were about to hit failure, I was interested in seeing how they were going to, react to that failure, how they were going to move forward from that failure. And so I really liked how the film had me engaged the entire runtime. I really did not feel bored at all during this movie. I really felt engaged in the character of Pearl's journey and how she was going to end up to the place we ended up seeing her at in X. I also like how I mentioned before that how this film really does feel like a golden age film. How they kind of cut to black when they're about to do like a sex scene, or they're about to they do things like the way the music is done, or how the editing is done, or how characters seem like overly happy in certain moments, or how um, how you really have to go in with the perspective that film was a very relatively young art form when this film takes place, because I think it takes place in 1919, I want to say. So you really have to factor in the fact that when film first came around, there was this audience for it. People wanted to see what exactly this new technology was, and so I like how this film acknowledges this golden age of film and how people were kind of discovering it at the time, and how the film itself represents what those films from that era looked like regarding its color palette and the way people were dressed, and the way that people were very interested in singing and dancing and all that kind of stuff. So I thought all that was very well done in this film as well. I also like how the actors' X Factor theme was continued from the first film. They even used the line again of, this person has that X Factor. They have the thing that we want, the thing that needs to happen for this film to work. And so I like how the first film had it, the second film had it, and as far as I know, hopefully the third film, Maxine, will have that as well, of actors having the X Factor that makes a film project come alive. So I do like how that theme was continued from X into Pearl, and how they're both, that theme is also, in that message, is also relevant to both films as well. But for my negatives of Pearl, I thought Pearl's descent into madness did feel a little sudden and quick. Um, there's certainly some things that were kind of built up over the course of the film that represents that madness, but I do feel personally that by the time the film goes full on crazy, full on descent into madness, full on Pearl killing anybody that gets in her way of pursuing her dream, I do feel like that madness kind of came out of nowhere. So I really would have liked to see more of an effective slow burn effect, where slowly as the film progresses, we kind of get to see a little bit of the madness, then a little bit more of the madness, and then a little bit more of the madness, and then when we get to full on crazy, obviously let the film just completely go that direction, and then you can pursue that. But I didn't like how it went from quiet, innocent Pearl to just Pearl going on this rampage. I thought that aspect of the story could have been better built up as they went along. I also thought not enough details were given on the Howard character. We do get to see this character in X, obviously, as the husband of Pearl. That's one character in particular I really was kind of frustrated with because I wanted more details on him. I wanted more than just a World War I veteran returning home and finding out that he has this wife that's completely crazy. I really would have liked to see more than that. He's really just kind of featured in flashbacks and towards the third act. So I thought that aspect of the character they really could have explored some more, and how he kind of tolerated Pearl's craziness after all this stuff went down. I also thought Pearl could have had more wins in her current life before pursuing dancing and pursuing this descent into madness. It just felt like they were just kind of to throw her into the worst possible scenario they could. So it's fine if you want to have the crazy mom and the handicapped father that she always has to take care of and stuff. But I did feel like they were just kind of throwing terrible situations at her early on in the film just to kind of make this descent into madness go a little more easily into that direction, I guess. And so I thought for me personally, I would have liked to have seen more wins going on for Pearl early on. Maybe she does have something going on in her life that she is happy about rather than just this terrible, awful farm life where she has nothing that going for her really. So I really would have liked to see more wins for the character rather than just give her a potential of a win and never gets to have it at all. I also thought there was an egg scene going on in the movie at one point. I thought they were going to lead into it somehow because I believe it was a crocodile egg or an alligator egg or whatever was living in the swamp for Pearl's farm, because they do bring that character back from X for those who remember that character from X. And there's a scene where that with an egg, and so you almost kind of wonder if Pearl was trying to aggravate the crocodile or alligator, and they really don't go anywhere with it. It's just kind of it's leading into her descent into madness, and then she just kind of breaks the egg out of nowhere, and you think they're going in a direction where um, she's going to use that as like a trap for one of her victims or something, but they never really go anywhere with it. I thought they could have completely took that scene out. It's just kind of Pearl destroying an egg while she's descending into madness at that point in the story. Um, could have completely cut that scene out, and I think this film would have been better already. So, Pearl, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's an excellent film. I do think it is an improvement over X. I think it is a better film than X. I think it pursues its character study and its era and the things that it's trying to represent a little bit more than X did. I also felt more invested in the characters as well. So 9 out of 10 for me. Highly recommend seeing Pearl. It's an excellent follow-up to X and an excellent prequel to X. And I'm really excited for Maxine and kind of seeing where the franchise is going to go once Maxine is released. So 9 out of 10 for me. I highly recommend seeing Pearl.